Hi, friend. Welcome back to the Content Systems for Growth podcast. I'm Michele Duwe. I'm so happy to have you here. Today, I want to talk about something that usually comes up quietly, not something that's loud and blaring, right before someone starts to think about hiring help. It's that feeling at the end of the day where you're thinking, I did a lot, but none of it felt focused. You know you're capable. You're doing it. You have been doing it. You know you're hardworking. You know you hustle. But there's this constant sense that things are more scattered than they should be. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, the idea of hiring a content system keeps popping up in your mind repeatedly. Not because you're trying to build a big team, not because you want to grow super fast, but because you're tired of carrying all of the work alone. Here's the part that most people don't say out loud to themselves or to anybody else. It's not that you don't know what needs to be done. You do. You 100% do. You know content needs to be created. You know it needs to be published. You know it needs to be reused instead of starting from scratch every single time for your marketing and promotional content. The problem is that everything still depends on you. You remembering what needs to happen, you explaining it, you catching the missteps, you fixing it when something just doesn't go quite right. So hiring doesn't feel like relief yet. It feels more like responsibility. And then there's this thought that creeps in. I hear it all the time. If I have to explain it, it's going to take longer than I can do it myself. My husband even says the same thing, honestly. But that's true in the beginning. But think about any new task you've learned personally. At first, it takes longer. You move slower, you double check yourself, and you're not efficient yet. But once you understand all the steps that you need to and the process, you get quicker. Things speed up. You stop thinking about every single move and you stop second guessing yourself as much if you got everything done. You just do the work. That's exactly how it works with a content assistant. If there's no system, they have to ask you questions constantly because they don't understand. They're guessing what you want. So they need your clarification. And instead of feeling supported, you feel interrupted. And when the process exists outside your head, even imperfectly, the questions quickly drop off. The system does the explaining for you. So, yes, it may take longer upfront for you, but that time isn't wasted. It's an investment in not having to carry this alone anymore. And if you've hired before and it didn't go well, that hesitation makes complete sense. Most of the time, it's not the person, it's the lack of the structure supporting both of you. Here's what I've noticed after years of doing this work. Most women I talk to actually love creating content. That's not the issue. The issue is that the content gets created in pieces in between everything else, or it's all the bits and bobs that they have to do after they record something. Then maybe they have to come back to it, and then they forget to come back to it. And then the next week looks exactly the same. And it's this constant repeat cycle. And it's not because you don't care, and it's not because you're lazy or undisciplined. It's because there's nothing holding your process together. And over time, that inconsistency starts to quietly affect your momentum and income, even if no one talks about it that way. This is the part I really want you to hear. You don't need perfect systems before you hire, but you do need clarity that lives outside of your brain. Leadership doesn't start when you suddenly feel confident. It starts when the work no longer depends on you remembering everything that needs to be done. And the easiest way to begin isn't designing some complicated system. It's just capturing what you're already doing, your voice, and how you do things. That's how you prepare to hire a content assistant. Because when you're working on content, record your screen. Walk through what you're doing like you're explaining it to your friend, or use tools that capture your steps as you go. Then take that and turn it into a simple checklist inside your project management system, not a fancy SOP. SOPs make my eyes glaze over, not something perfect, just clear steps that somebody else can easily follow for you. And when you do hire, start smaller than you think you need. One task, a few hours a week, space to adjust. That alone removes so much pressure instead of throwing it all on somebody else's plate. This is something that I had to learn for myself. When something doesn't go right with a team member, it's usually not because they couldn't do the work. It's because a step lived outside my head or outside of one of the business owners' heads that I supported, and it never made it in the system. I mean, think about it. You do it on repeat. So something that's obvious to you may not be obvious to somebody else. Something that I skip over without thinking it actually matters, well, that matters to somebody else. When you take ownership of the process instead of blaming the person, everything changes. The system improves, communication improves, and that leadership starts to feel lighter instead of heavier. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I know I need this, but I don't even know where to begin, no problem. That's exactly why I offer the content clarity and cleanup. This work is about getting your content out of your head, organizing what already exists, and creating something you can actually lead from before you hire. Not more effort, not more pressure, just clarity for you. And if you're more of a DIY girl, right now, I'll go ahead and put the link down below to my Trello board in the show notes so you can start building that structure on your own. You're not stuck because you're bad at business. You're stuck because you've outgrown doing everything yourself, and you're learning what it looks like to lead with clarity instead of exhaustion. That's not failure. That's growth, friends. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end of this podcast. I appreciate you, and I hope you make it a wonderful week. Yay! Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found this episode valuable and learned some actionable tips that you can implement in your business so that you can feel accomplished and less stressed. If you enjoyed this show, please take a quick minute to share this with your business bestie, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps me reach more business owners just like you. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, please reach out to me on my website. I've created a form just for you. Remember, with the right system and mindset, you can achieve the success your heart desires. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to chatting with you next time. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful week. And don't forget, let's grow, friends.